Agree to disagree does not work. And hopefully with this increase recently in political violence, you guys can finally connect the dots on what I've been saying for years. Because there's a lot of naive people still on both sides who say, well, we just need to turn down the dial on the rhetoric. Or they say something sophomoric, like nobody should die because of their opinion. And that latter claim, unlike the first, contains a bit of truth to it, but that element of truth is something that we ignore, and it's something, in fact, we are so obstinately against that we can't understand why there are people who celebrate the deaths of others. First, let's assume that it's true that nobody deserves to die because of their opinion. Is the same true of actions? Is there anybody who deserves to die because of their actions? Controversially, yes. Ideologies like humanism may try to convince us otherwise, so that needs to be its own video. But unless you're completely naive, I would hope that you can accept that when you say that nobody deserves to die, what you're really saying is that we do not have a right to decide who deserves to die. And sure, that gives us an avenue to condemn the act of violence itself, but that doesn't explain why when a bad person dies, I should think that that's a bad thing. So here's the controversial element of truth I alluded to earlier. When faced with this line of reasoning, you will say, well, Charlie Kirk was not a bad person, or the next victim of political violence, he or she is not a bad person. And you'll say that quickly without even really thinking about it and never acknowledge that that's actually the core of the argument. You understand and accept that people will celebrate when dictators and murderers are killed. But you also understand that Charlie Kirk was not a dictator. He was not a murderer. The argument is a claim of reality, that this and that have different qualities, different traits, and different characteristics. Just the same, if we concede that nobody deserves to die for their opinion, we have to differentiate between opinion and action. And the problem with our culture is that for the past 20 years, we've told people that as long as you're not harming someone, you get to believe whatever you want. So you get to believe that there is no difference between opinion and action. You get to believe that there is no difference between a fascist and a loving father. You get to believe all of these things logically subsequent to the idea that this person deserves to die, but you don't get to believe that this person deserves to die. No. Do you see why that doesn't work? This entire culture of agree to disagree and people are entitled to their opinions has led to this. Because you cannot say that 1 + 1 = 3 without throwing the entire system out of whack. We don't need to turn down the dial. We don't need to agree to disagree. We need to stop pretending that what I'm saying is a slippery slope to hating anyone who disagrees with us. A true political disagreement is when two people want the same thing but can't agree on the exact details of how to go about it but still respect each other. People, however, who have a topsy-turvy worldview that leads to them shooting you in the neck and celebrating when you're dead, yeah, no, that isn't a disagreement. That's evil. That's ignorance. That is the enemy, and you should not tolerate them.